Well, hello everyone. It's Leslie Flower, Trailblazer for Women in Business. And here we are again at Awakening Your Infinite Potential Telesummit. And what a guest we have right now. On deck is the amazing Katie Gailes. Get to know that name. She has been called a force in nature because of her obvious creativity and energy. After a long corporate career, Katie started a consulting practice that she ran full-time for 6 years. She then assumed several counseling, consulting, and program management roles with other organizations that serve small business owners and entrepreneurs. Katie is a 2018 Triangle Business Journal Women in Business Award recipient, a Hub Collaborative Partner Award recipient, and also received a Paul Harris Fellow Award from Rotary International and the Rotary Foundation. Wow. An avid reader, her creative outlets are gardening and writing. Katie has found mentors for her personal passions and her professional aspirations in books. Katie wants to use her passion for writing and reading to show others how to do the same. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. It's so excited. So you're all about reading and studying books. And I love this idea about a book actually being your mentor. So tell us about how you came to that. And what was your awakening into your own infinite potential around this subject?
Well, Leslie, I've always had a great relationship with books. I think because they were not completely accessible when I was growing up, I had to walk to the library to use the books there to do my homework. So one of the first things I did when I started my professional career and had some money is I bought a set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. That was like, and joined every book club. And so I've always had this thing about books and wanted to hold them in my hands. So it wasn't unusual for me to see an interesting book and just pick it up and read it. Or sometimes I just pick it up just because I wanted to have it. Well, so I've always been a reader. I think it was in 1992 when I was 12. I was actually walking through Sam's Club. And they had this big table of books. All the books were stacked there. And there was this one book that really caught my eye. It was a paperback. It only cost $6.95, so it could be an impulse buy. I picked it up. I took it home. And eventually I cracked it open and started reading through it. Well, at that time in my life, I had moved from changed states. I had adopted a 14-year-old family member, not officially, but they were living with me. I was going through a divorce. I had changed jobs. There was a lot going on. I might have pushed my ex-husband down the step for a penny or less. So a lot of emotional turmoil, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of change, a lot of stress. I started reading through this book, and I got to a point in the book where the author was explaining concepts around personal responsibility and accountability.
Oh.
And I read it, that part, there was a diagram there. And I went back and I reread that part and I looked at the diagram and I was like, oh my. That challenged my whole view of where I was in my life at that time and what my role was in getting me to that point and how I could move forward. And you know how you feel when you get this chill? It's like when a part of your body goes to sleep and then suddenly the blood starts rushing back in it and you feel all these tingling. I felt that. And I said, oh my goodness, I can't just read this book. I have to study this book.
Okay, so you have to tell us the name of the book. I can't wait another minute.
Okay. The name of the book is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I love it.
Okay, and what caught me was a circle of influence versus a circle of concern.
Yeah.
And how sometimes we feel angry because we're not accepting any responsibility for where we are. So we can be innocent but not guilt-free in situations. And I had to stop reading and go back to the very beginning of that book and start taking notes as I went through and reading a chapter and then letting that marinate and act on it. And it totally changed the way that I saw what had happened in my relationship, in my career, and what my responsibility was for myself moving forward.
So
And
that's actually a paradigm shift,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
And that is an awakening,
It
right?
is. It is. And so I kept that book by my side because it took me a little bit longer because I wasn't just reading it, I was studying it. So that book became my mentor, and I actually shared that book and the concepts from that book with my ex-husband, whom I stopped calling my ex-husband. I just called him Maggie's dad, because that was what mattered. What mattered was not anything that did or did not happen between us in the past. What matters was we had to co-parent this child. It changed my whole paradigm. It changed the way that we interacted with each other. And I think moving forward, we may have had 2 arguments. We got a divorce without a judge telling us what to do. We settled everything without fighting over anything. And that book, it really became my mentor. In fact, I believe in it so much, I've given probably 7 or 8 copies of that book to others as gifts and said, don't read this book, just study it.
Yeah, I
So
got it.
that was the first time that I realized how powerful books can be as mentors. And let me tell you, sometimes you get started down a path and you fall off the wagon. Mama would call that backsliding. Mama was a preacher, so she used those words. And if that book, you just pick it back up again and reread and refresh, and you're back on track. So it's like the mentor that you have right on your night table or in your bookshelf or in your purse, that you can always go back to when you need a refresher, when you need to be
So
reminded.
let me ask you a question about this. So when you read it over and over again, do you find new things in it each time you read it?
I do find new applications or new areas in my life where I did not apply that because it wasn't obvious to me at the time.
Right. That's
Yes.
awesome.
And
Okay.
so since that book, I've kind of gone on and found other books that were my mentors.
So when you had this awakening, like this is a riveting moment, I know the listeners know what the chills are.
Yeah.
It's so clear where your next step is supposed to be. So once you had this, what happened next? What did you do about it, if anything?
What did I do about my awakening, or what did I do?
Well, yeah, about this insight into books being, studying of a book can actually be your mentor and your guide. So what was your next step to serving others and helping others realize that? The first thing you did is you start giving it away as gifts.
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually shared the concepts from that book, and that you will find it's smatterings of it in some of my workshops. And I recommend it to people, and other books that I've used as mentors.
Yeah.
That was and it changed also the way I look at possessing books. So having a book, especially a personal development or self-help book, to me became more of a significant thing. I looked at them more as a tool. So I used to belong to like 3 of those book clubs where you get 6 books every month, and if you didn't send them back, you paid for them. Well, of course, that was before we started doing everything online, but I stopped those book clubs because I didn't want to read all those books that somebody else picked out for me. I wanted to be much more deliberate in my reading. And so each day you will find me usually with a book in my bag.
I love that. I love that. So if you're listening here, I mean, I'm kind of anxious to know, Katie, if we're in that place, what is it that you do for those of us, or can provide for those of us, perhaps in your download, that if this really resonates with us, the fact that reading is one thing and study is something quite different, what will you make available as a download for our listeners today?
So I have my list, my top 6 recommended reads in priority order with a brief description. And also, so you can go to my website and download that, but you can also join a community of other people who are on the same journey of finding mentors in books.
That is phenomenal. So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us so I have heard, and I'm guilty of this too. I love that what you're talking about, valuing books. You know, when we were growing up, we valued them. They were precious.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we had to go to the library and get them, and we checked them out, etc. People have books on their shelves they've never opened.
Yes.
And they have books that they've only read.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how we can make books become precious and golden mentors for ourselves in this time when we're fractured, where we have a sensory overload of information. And you're reminding me of Louisa May Alcott's Little Woman and how I love those old books and the smell and the color.
Yes. And the feel of the paper in your hand.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, some people even say that the vibration of the author is still within the pages, but that's another whole conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other, because I can tell you about some old books that I picked up at sales that I've had unique experiences with.
Your 6 books, they're in priority order, and I have to ask you, is 7 Habits the top or one of the 6?
It's actually not the first one, because since that experience, I have found other books. I said, oh, I wish I'd read this one first.
Ah.
What I get to share is how I would have read this order in which I would have read them if I'd known all 6 of them in advance. So the people who download this list get the benefit of me having read all of them and saying, okay, well, if I'd known about all of them in advance, I would have read them in this sequence.
Got it. Oh, that's fabulous. That we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No, not at
So,
all.
Katie, if we're wondering if this is the next step for us, what would be your best advice for a person who really does want to study again and get that feeling and use these phenomenal books as mentors and focusing our time there? What would be your best advice for them?
I would suggest, first of all, go to my website, www.katiegailes.com, easy, KATIEGAILES.com. Download the list. I'll have some recommendations on that download as well about how to make time to do the reading. You don't have to change your life all around to do this. It just takes a few minutes a day. And start with the idea in mind that you're not just reading the book, you're actually studying the book, you're getting involved with the book. You're there to learn, and your mind is open, and you're going to be deliberate, you're not going to rush.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
And then, of course, join the community, because you will be able to interact with others who are on the same journey. And sometimes having that dialogue with somebody else who's in the same place, you can pick up some other things that maybe you didn't notice. So it really enhances your learning.
So your awakening in awareness was the power of using the study of a book to do a reversal of your point of view.
Yes.
And that is an awakening and a growth in awareness, isn't it, of your infinite potential?
Absolutely. And it's a journey. You know, the fact that it's infinite means you never get there, right? So it's a journey. And you know it's out there, it's infinite. And so you're on this wonderful journey towards infinity. And who knows what exciting things are out there in the future. But what I found with books as mentors is they're always there available to you. And at the point where you need a refresher, you want to go back and grab one, or you want to add one because this new one is now the right one on your journey, they're always there. They don't replace physical, actual human mentors that you would interact with, but they're another important part of your arsenal that you can use to take you towards your infinite potential.
I love that. And I'm headed over there right now myself. I'm trying to opt in myself to get this.
Thank you.
Because I have read a lot of books and studied a number of them too, and I am definitely like-minded. So everyone, I want you to take a look at what Katie has to say. watch this presentation again. Be listening for your own awakening. She describes what it feels like. And an awakening is a growth in awareness. And you will get the same kind of experience Katie did, right? And you'll recognize it for what it is. And she's now in her infinite potential, right, Katie?
Right.
At least for right now, she will help you get back into studying. So, Katie, thank you so much for being here.
For the opportunity.
You're welcome. And I'll see you at the next speaker. It's Leslie Flowers, and this is Awakening Your Infinite Potential. Thank you. Great job. How were those questions?
Good.
Good. Good. Good.
How were my responses?
Oh, excellent. Oh, you were fabulous. Oh, please. You were just fabulous.
Toastmasters training, no odds, you know, like.
I didn't hear any. I didn't hear any ums. You were fabulous, fabulous. All right, sweetie, I've got to jump off and go to the bathroom and get ready for the next person. Beautiful work. Send me a list of the herbs you want.
Okay.
Now you still can go, but it wouldn't be as much fun probably.
Oh no, it wouldn't be fun without you, Leslie.
I don't know. I think I was crazy to schedule this week, but I'm excited that we're getting it done.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I forgot to stop the recording. That's all right.